G'day, audiophiles. There's no new episode to be released today because we've had a slight delay with some recording. Our next full episode will be released over the next week. In the meantime, we hope you enjoy this bonus episode, which is the extras that we were recently asked to produce for the Big Finish podcast for Sarah Jane Smith, Come Back. So this was presented on the Big Finish podcast a couple of months back, and we're happy to share this with you now on the Sirens of Audio feed. So we hope you enjoy, and we'll catch you again soon.
Well, Lavinia, I hope you liked your day in the limelight. I think you'd have hated it, actually. All those people going on about how wonderful, how successful, how much a pillar of society you were.
Sarah Jane Smith.
First I lose the house in Denham, then the flat in Chalk Farm, and now this one. One day I just may get to unpack.
I know you're a famous investigative reporter.
Yeah, well, I used to be. Let's just say the investigating reporter racket's been falling off a bit recently. St. Clotilde's Well.
There, I must correct you. The correct title is Old Clute's Well. Old Clute, as I'm sure you know, is another name for the devil. It was always a place of power. The Christian church took it over, as it did so many pagan places and festivals. But the power was still there, biding its time.
This is Harris. I have a job for Mr. Chakravarti.
Come on, you. I think it might be safer to take public transport.
But what about your car?
Welcome to my world, Mr. Townsend.
I think I shall be asking some important questions of your representative tomorrow.
You really shouldn't do that, Vicar.
Are you threatening me?
Yes, I rather think I am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Harris. How is Miss Smith?
In mourning.
Nothing compared to how she'll be tomorrow morning.
My name is Gary Russell. We'd worked with Liz right at the very beginning on the Bennies. She had come in and done Walk into Babylon. And I think in conversations with her, she was like, well, what are you... Because did we have the Doctor Who license? I think we had just had our first meeting with the BBC about possibly getting the Doctor Who license. It was around that time. And so it obviously was something we were talking about. And she must have said, I don't think I'd ever want to play Sarah Jane again. I like playing the part I'm playing in Babylon, but I wouldn't want to play Sarah Jane again. Kind of red rag to a bull for me. So that, 3 or 4 years later, I'm saying to Jason I want to do Sarah Jane. And I think Jason was like, but Liz said she... And I thought, no, you leave Liz to me. So I phoned her up one day, out of the blue, and said, right, madam, you said you didn't want to play Sarah Jane. However, rather than team you up with the Doctor and have you playing, second fiddle, as you have done many times in the past, and I promise there won't be a tin dog, how do you fancy the idea of a 4-part Sarah Jane series? Out on her own in the world, being an investigative journalist, but doing sort of spooky, X-Files-y kind of things. And she said no, straight away. And I went, go on. No, go on. Then I think after about 10 minutes of go on, no, it turned into, right, we'll have a coffee.
We decided with the Sarah Jane character that she would see it as a mistake if every time, she needed help or anything in her life, she would go running back to UNIT. I felt then she hadn't progressed. You can't go down the same line. I think she has a great affection for the Brig, for everyone that she has, been with as part of her life, but I really felt it needed a new slant. And what we also spoke about was that these larger-than-life characters, sometimes they're not on the side of the law. Sometimes you're quite attracted to people that you really know. I wanted an element of danger. Now, it's not that he's a good man, I think, Josh. But I do think that he walks on the edge, and I think that is quite... I think she would lend herself to that. He brings with him contacts, and she's very reluctant to actually incorporate him at first. But it works very well.
Liz was always incredibly protective of Sarah Jane. She just lived and breathed the character. She knew the character backwards. So she knew what Sarah Jane would and wouldn't do in given situations. And I was like, well, yeah, there's no point in asking you to come and do this series and then giving you stuff you don't want to do. So obviously everything you're talking about will factor in. I think there are a couple of things I pushed back on and said, I don't think actually that's the direction I want to take Sarah. I want to take it more in the spooky, supernaturally kind of thing, but with a scientific basis. And so we compromised in the middle on there. And she had no major demands or anything. There was no sort of, my dressing room must have red Smarties in it or anything like that. She did say, would there be a chance of having a walk-on part, as you do on audio, for Sadie? And I've known Sadie since she was a bump in Lizzie's tummy. So that was, I was like, yeah, of course. I knew Sadie was doing acting at that point. And actually, I created a main character for her.
Hi, this is Sadie Miller. I think they obviously approached Mum first, and then she signed on for it. And then there was going to be this character, Natalie. And my mum said, oh, well, why don't we have Sadie try and do that? So I think it was Mum really that signed me on for that, which was great, to get to do something like that with her as well, rather than just being on the sidelines watching her do it. To actually get to work with her as well was really special. But I think if Mum hadn't have said that it was okay, I think they probably wouldn't have, Big Finish wouldn't have wanted me to do it. I think it was down to Mum really. I think I was maybe in my last year of high school, possibly like 17, 18, possibly, I think. 2002. Okay, so 2002, about 17, and then 2006, I guess, a few years older than that. So youngish, I guess, yeah.
Jeremy James, well. There's a name I haven't heard for a very long time. No, it's actually my name is Jeremy James Fielder. And foolishly or otherwise, when I started acting, I on the advice of no one other than myself, I said, I should have a stage name. And I don't know what decade I thought I was in, but it wasn't the one I was in. And I thought, oh no, I'll call myself. Was no great, with Nail and I, doesn't Richard E. Grant say, what do you think? I think I'm calling myself Donald Twain. And it was a bit like that. And then I was chatting away with some friends, and they were like, well, you could just call yourself, Jeremy. And I actually really hate the name Jeremy. I've always hated it. And so I became Jez at a very, very young age. And then my parents don't call me Jeremy. But Jeremy James sounded to me to have the sort of requisite gravitas or ludicrousness that was called for in this circumstance, and I just went with it. And then the first, I think I was down as Jez Fielder for the first ever Big Finish I did, and then it was after that was Jez Fielder when I did the second ever Big Finish was called Phantasmagoria, and it was written by Mark Gatiss. And it was the first acting job I ever had in my life. And I'd met Nick Briggs in a pub, you'll be unsurprised to hear, in Hastings. I was playing in a band, singing and playing the electric guitar. And after the gig, Nick Briggs, who I'd never met before in my life, just introduced himself. I said, hello, my name's Nick and I'm a producer. I'd like you to do some work for me. Would you be interested? And of course, I've just come off stage singing and playing the guitar, haven't I? So when someone says I'm a producer, you expect them to be a music producer. So that's what I thought he was. And I said, oh, right. Of course. We can have a chat. What is it you need? Do you need session? Do you need vocals, guitar? What? He went, oh, no, of course you think that. No. Sorry, let's start again. I'm Nicholas Briggs and I'm an audio drama producer. And I really liked your voice in between songs. So that's basically, he'd enjoyed the banter with the audience between. It wasn't anything to do with my music. No, I said, I've been vaguely insulted. But no, he was really nice. So we had a beer and had a chat. And he said, look, it's Doctor Who. And I went, oh, well, if it's okay, then sold. Whatever it is, I don't care. And he goes, are you a fan of the show? I said, well, I'm not. The guy that I was playing in a band with, his name's John Ewan, and he's brilliant, one of the best drummers of his generation. And he's a proper Whovian. Like he's got the bookshelf, he's got the kind of TARDIS bookshelf, and opens up, and all the videos are in there, and he knows everything about it, and he quotes it. I just kind of liked it and watched it with Tom Baker and Peter Davison when I was a kid. But I was a really big fan of Tom Baker, and kind of followed his career and everything he did after Doctor Who as well, because I just thought it was mesmerising.
It's weird, but I think it looks quite like Pertwee. Pertwee was younger. I don't know how he would take that. And I told him, and I think he's incorporating it into the character now. I mustn't say it too much. Well, I suppose, really, I am now taking on a role that he is now... He hasn't exactly got the Sarah lines because he wouldn't stand for it. But it's great. I mean, we have a lovely relationship. It's so nice if it happens immediately, you know, and it took very little time. I mean, he's very funny. He makes me laugh. And he's quite loud. Yes. And I like that.
Why do we employ him? He's disrespectful, isn't he?
Total, I've never...
It's not disrespect, it's erotic compulsion.
Would you agree with that, Liz?
I didn't hear it,
just say yes. Just say yes.
Yeah, she does. She's mad about me.
Gary Russell took me out onto the balcony of a party, and I can't remember whose party it was. He said, no, I need to talk to you properly. We went out to this balcony and it was quiet out there, and he said, how do you feel about being a companion? And I said, what, you mean to a doctor? No, to a doctor's companion in a special we're going to do. I said, stop being cryptic. What are you talking about? He said, well, I don't know how much you know about Doctor Who. And he said, do you know who Sarah Jane Smith is? I said, yes, I do. I said, well, this is all very hush-hush. I don't know why it was. We're going to write a series with Sarah Jane Smith as the main character, and we'd like you to be her companion, her sidekick. I don't know, is that something you'd be interested in? I went, yes, I'll do that. Brilliant. He says, have you ever met Liz? No, never met Liz. Okay, well, we'll make sure you two meet at some point, but basically, I need to ask you just a few things about your life. I was like, why do you want to know about my life? What's that got to do with it? He said, well, because we're kind of basing him on you. I was like, really? Is he an international rock star? No, he isn't, and nor are you, so shut up. I think, so Josh went to university in Glasgow, and so did I. And there's a few parallels, and the timeline's quite similar. I should put on record, I haven't been to a young offenders institution. Certainly, it was very flattering, actually.
Drinks, ladies?
Thanks. You must be Josh.
Yeah, you must be the Planet 3 super spy. Sarah's told me what you do for her. Can I get a credit card?
Joshua Richard Townsend, aged 24. Parents hoteliers, run a ski resort near the Alps. Loaded. You, on the other hand, are the delinquent only child, fending for yourself and refusing their help. Oh, how brave. After wasting your time with various fringe loonies, you spent 8 months in Feltham. But that was fun. After various spells at McDonald's, Waterstones and a printing press, you were working as a glorified tea-boy for a builder's merchants until yesterday lunchtime. They gave him 3 mobile phones over the last 5 weeks. He lost them all. Security isn't his strong point.
Oh, talking of which, I need a new one to put my SIM card into. Those nice bank raiders wrecked the other one.
Oh, I'll get one sorted. I'll set up the account so it can't be traced back to you, but it'll take a day or two. You'll have to rely on Muggins here. I take it you own a mobile?
Yeah, yep. Excuse me. Can one of you explain how you know all my details, my past?
And that's my job, protecting her from chancers and backstabbers. Here, jailboy, have a credit card then.
Actually, I should tell you this story. So a few weeks, couple of months pass, and there's a big Finnish party. They used to have them quite regularly, but Gary was there, and he said, "Oh, great, you're here. Liz is here." Well, you have got to meet, and look, I'm going to find her. Come with me, we'll find Liz. So we found Liz, and Liz Sladen, this is Jez Fielder. It's going to be your companion. Oh, hello, I've heard so much about you. I said, hello, Liz. I said, and she just looked the same as she did in Doctor Who. It was really odd. It was like a striking woman. And I just thought, wow, other than obviously thinking she was gorgeous, I was just really pleased to meet her. And then we just started chatting away, and Gary was sort of, he had a look on his face like, oh God, I thought he was going to say something awful, and he hasn't. I'm really pleased. That kind of relieved face. But I didn't let him down after that, because I said, She asked me whether I'd seen Doctor Who and know anything about the character. I said, yeah, I've seen a lot of the stuff with. I haven't seen much of the stuff with John. I saw a lot of the stuff with Tom Baker. She said, okay, so you're conversant with the character. I said, oh yeah, absolutely. I said, and I saw K9 and Company. I saw that pilot episode. Well, it gets worse. It was entirely my fault as well. And actually, this is a great barometer for Liz. So I said, yeah, I saw K9 and Company, and I could get to audibly hear Gary go, ooh. And she goes, oh, yes. What did you think of that then? And I said, oh, no, I thought he came across really well. She said, really? I went, no. And Gary went, oh, God. And Liz started laughing. And then Gary's like, oh, she's laughing. Oh, she thinks it's funny. Yeah. And then he starts laughing as well out of sheer relief. And at that moment, I was like, me and her are going to get on just fine.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Harris. How is Miss Smith?
In mourning.
Nothing compared to how she'll be tomorrow morning. Shall we go? These tedious little Cotswold villages are like something out of Enid Blyton.
Back to London, then?
Yes, Harris. Back to London. And the beginning of the end for Sarah Jane Smith.
And the whole thing about Hilda coming in, she was originally only ever going to be in the last story. And it was only once I had talked to Patricia Maynard, and she'd said yes, and I said to Liz, Pat has said yes, that I thought, I'm wasting this, aren't I? I'm wasting this brilliant actress and this brilliant character by only pulling her in at the very end and going, ha-ha, I'm actually the person who's behind all the misfortunes you've gone through. So suddenly I wanted to put her into 2 other stories. So I put her in the very first story and I put her in one of the other stories just to have 1 or 2 lines. And then, yeah, this is the marketing manic side of me. I also realised I could have 2 covers. That we could put out a cover, because Liz is the cover star of all of those first 4 stories. And then the 5th one, she shares it with Miss Winters. But it enabled us to put a cover out that looked the same as the others without Miss Winters on, so that people would not know until the moment it turned up in the door on their doorstep that there's Miss Winters on the front cover, because she'd been revealed at the very end of the previous episode. And Liz bought into that completely, but it's because it was Patricia. I think if I'd said any other villain from Doctor Who, she'd have been a bit, what's the point? As indeed would I, because I do think Miss Winters is the only one you could bring back. But because it was Patricia Maynard, she was just so excited to work. They hadn't seen each other since Robot. And it was a lovely reunion the day that Pat came in and did all her stuff for the various stories. Terence probably wasn't that as familiar with audio as I thought, and he did have some very sort of florid moments and also some bits where he went, yeah, but the audience won't know what's going on. So I did a bit of tweaking on his one, and one of the things I ended up doing was I wrote, it wasn't a rewrite of Terence at all, I wrote the opening scene of the whole series, which is the funeral of Lavinia, and that is 100% all me. And we recorded that separately. We did that. I think that might almost be the very last thing we recorded of the whole show. And Liz loved it. And that really cemented or repaired any fractious relationship we'd had during the making of the show. Because she thought it was just the most beautiful speech she'd ever had to give. And she was really grateful. And the fact that I said, this is going to be the opening of the whole series. And she loved that.
I'm going to miss you, you know. All those adventures together we never actually had. But you listened to me going on 19 to the dozen, so you must have felt you knew as much as I did about my work. I'm going to miss you so much. Oh, your solicitor tipped me the wink about your will. Thank you. It's very nice. Quite what I'm going to do with the house, Market Garden, and the royalties on your patents. I'm not quite sure. But I promise to be at least slightly frivolous, as you insisted so much last Christmas. Well, I best be getting back to the house now. The locals are gathering for the party, and apparently Juno Baker says we're not to call it a wake because you don't believe in such things. I'm glad she's around. I think she was very fond of you. But I love you. I love you.
This is the tragedy, really, that is Liz's career. Is that she was an absolutely fantastic actress. She's incapable of giving a bad performance. She's an actress who acts the whole time. If you look at all her Doctor Who's, one of the things that there's a reason why she's a really popular companion and why kids adored her at the time, and it's because she acted. So if the Doctor's talking to Salamar, or the Doctor's talking to Lynx, or the Doctor's talking to Harrison Chase, and Liz is in the scene and has no lines of dialogue, you're actually still watching Liz Sladen, because she's acting the whole time, and it's nothing big and showy, and she's not drawing you. She's just behaving as somebody would in any given situation, which is what makes her such a good actress. And she's an instinctive actress, which is why I think she's very possessive of Sarah Jane, is because that she had good instincts and she could smell bad writing from a mile off, so you never gave her any. And so she gave, I'd say she gave 100%, I'd say she gave 110% in every single performance she ever gave. It didn't matter if she didn't like the script, or didn't like a line of dialogue or whatever. Once you talked it through and said, well, that's how it's going to be, she still gave it that 110%. There's never a point where you can listen to anything or watch anything that she's ever in and go, yeah, you can tell Liz didn't like this because she's switched off from it. That just never happened. She's always 110% giving you everything she's got, and everything she had was magnificent. She should have been a huge successful actress.